there, listeners. We're about to go boldly where no one has gone before. That's right, folks. We are looking at season 2 of Strange New Worlds. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And before we get started, as you know, we are going to spoil the hell out of the second season. And, we're going to find out why was Kirk on that ship so damn much and everything.
Go to the heart of it.
Oh, yeah. We're diving in with this, folks. It's going to be a ton of fun to talk about. And we've got a great crew here to talk about it. Of course, we couldn't do this without our friends from Earth Station Trek. Welcome, of course, Keith and Alan. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Wait a minute.
Thanks for having us.
I know.
Since he's been introduced by Alan already. Hey there, Mr. Mike. How are you?
Howdy. It's okay. I'll loan it to you. I loan it out,
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. He's still waiting for royalty checks from Minnie Pearl, so it's okay.
Oh, you beat me to the joke.
I try to. I've been doing this long enough. I kind of know. So it's going to be a ton of fun. And folks, like we said earlier, we're going to spoil the hell out of this one, but we definitely would love to hear from you. If you want to write us, feedback at earthstation1.com is the best way to get in touch with us. And if you get a chance, please like and subscribe. We definitely would love you to, like, wherever you listen to this, wherever you're viewing this, please tell us what you guys think about it. We'd love feedback. We always like hearing about it. And if you get a chance, hit the little subscribe button at the bottom underneath there on any of the media players that you're watching this on or listening to. We definitely would really appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Mike, take us to Warp Factor 3.
Yes, definitely. We'll see if we can go a little bit faster than that because we got a lot to cover.
Only 3?
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
Well, I didn't Starbase. What do you mean? I don't want to pull out of here too fast.
Well, as the saying goes, go boldly when no one has gone before. But I know that you two gentlemen have covered this show extensively this season. And I'm kind of curious. I mean, this show did kind of go some places that Star Trek hasn't gone before. But Keith, we'll start with you. Where overall did you sort of land this season? Like, how do you feel about this season, this second season as a whole?
I still like the show. It was funny you say that. I'm going to need some more distance, a couple of months, maybe years. But of the new Star Trek, I'm actually thinking Discovery is my second least favorite after Picard. And Strange New Worlds has risen. Yeah, Strange New World has risen higher than I expected. I really like it. And I think if you ever listen to our show, one of the things I say, the things I like. The things I don't like some of the canon changes, I really don't like. But it's a good show. It has really one of the most likable cast of characters I've seen in Trek in a while. And even the characters whose existence I question, like La'an Noonien Singh, I love the actress. So I'm really enjoying it. I have 2 or 3 episodes that I think are standouts, 2 or 3 episodes that I'm like, oh God, why did they do that? But overall, I give this a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Wow, that is pretty positive.
Yeah,
it's scary. The way you started it, you were like, I was like, oh my God. But I listened to your show, so I know where you were coming from. So
yeah,
I'm a little bit.
Hey, the other day I was talking to someone and I said, who listens to our show, and I was saying that I think whatever we were going to talk about, I can't remember what it was now, but I said, whatever we're talking about, I think I'm going to be the grumpy one on this one. I think I'm going to have to be the and it's like, oh, what, you're going to give it an 8 out of 10? It's like, yeah, I usually grade up pretty well. So, Alan, what about you? What were your thoughts going in or the overall for the second season?
Oh, I loved it. I found that it had a great variety of approaches, of storytelling, of tone, and I really enjoy that. And a lot of people have griped about that because if you only have 10 episodes, they all have to count. And I think they all did count, but in very, very different ways. And some people thought that things like the musical took away from the Star Trekness. If you've only got 10 episodes, every one of them has got to be a banger. And I think they all were. So, I mean, as Keith says, I have a few standouts. I don't have anything that I didn't like. So I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think that it built upon the strengths of season 1, and has given us a lot of new things to talk about and think about. So, I think very successful overall.
Mike, what about you? What were your thoughts about season 2 as a whole?
I enjoyed it. I liked that they took chances that they've never tried before on Star Trek. They had a crossover with an animation episode. It was awesome. And I loved that they were willing to take chances. And I thought you got to learn more about the characters this season, even more so, and the growth and the explanation of some of the different characters. You learned more about the Doctor than you ever expected to this season. And you also, you got the romance between Spock and Chapel. You got, you had Kirk. There was just so much, and I loved you got to learn more about the bridge crew. You got to learn more about, some of the new characters. And I love it's a very, very well-rounded crew. I think my only thought that, kind of left me a little bit, I didn't think there was enough Pike this season. I really don't. I think that's the only thing I thought was missing for it. Other than that, I think it was a very strong season. I wanted to see more episodes. 10 is not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. It seemed to me that 10 went by really quickly too. Like I was very surprised when, was it after the musical episode? They said it was like next week is the finale. And I was like, really? I was like, are we there already? It felt like it went by really quickly to me. And I looking back on it now, I think it's because I didn't find as much substance in this season as I would have liked to. I think I'm more in Keith's camp on this one. I like the series overall. I like the cast a lot. I think the characters are interesting to a point. I do give them credit for taking some big swings, trying some different things this season, and I think they worked for the most part. We can talk about go in the weeds of it, but as far as kind of the promise that I thought was made the first season, which is we're going to explore strange new worlds and really bring back an element of discovery to the show. I felt like that was a little lacking this season. And I know we joke about it, but I'm just going to say flat out, I thought there was way too much Kirk. Way too much Kirk and way too much leaning on what's to come rather than the current crew. I wish I don't mind continuity error, breaks in continuity if they want to do that. You can always say it's a different universe, whatever, blah blah blah. But I just don't. The crew that you have is really good. The characters that you have are really good. I want to find out more about them. I don't need Captain Kirk on the ship for half the season. I think he was in maybe 4 episodes or so, and that was too much, to me. And especially when they were leading up to. I mean, there's one episode that ends with Kirk, Spock, and Uhura in having a drink or something, and I was like, why are we showing this? This is not relevant to this series. I there was things like that, but overall, first of all, the show looks amazing. I believe they have that technology that's similar to what Lucasfilm is using, the volume, right? And it looks like, I mean, what they're able to do, and the way this show looks, it's just mind-boggling to me. The exterior shots, the space battles, the going to different planets, et cetera, the different anomalies that show up, I think it's incredible looking. So production values wise, I mean, it's top notch for me. But I do think the writing was not as strong this season. There were some high points for sure, which I think we'll get into. And there was I don't think there was anything that was what I felt was garbage. So I won't say there was an out and out low point, But there were points, there were episodes that I felt were much stronger than others.
That's any series, truthfully. We have stronger episodes. You had that in the first season, so I think.
True. I think there were more misses. For me personally, there were more misses than hits this season. But let's start off with like the biggest swing, because I think that's what like everybody's talking about still to this day, and we'll probably talk about for years to come. As far as Star Trek goes, Subspace Rhapsody, the penultimate episode of the season, first time that there's a musical in Star Trek. Alan, I want to start with you, especially since you're like the music guy. How do you think they pulled this one off? Like, do you think they pulled it off as well as they could have?
I just don't like musicals. I
Really?
I don't think
that shocks me.
I don't think every series needs to have a musical episode, and I was dreading that Star Trek was going to do one. So, that's my starting point. I think it was well done. I think it was really well done. The music, the songs in the episode were written by two of the members of Letters for Cleo, which that's very cool. And I would love to get them on our show and interview them about that, but they are union members, so I can't. And at least now. Well, I'll be able to at some point. But the Buffy musical was great. I just don't, and there's that whole contingent of fans who are like, oh, there needs to be a Star Trek musical. There doesn't. But at least now that we've had one, we don't have to ever say it again. We don't have to ever say, oh, Star Trek needs a musical. Well, it's had one now. And, this is on a little bit of a tangent, but with one of the villain characters that has been revealed for the upcoming season of Doctor Who, there's a lot of speculation that there's a musical episode coming of Doctor Who, and I'm just going to quit watching the show if that happens. I mean, I'm not really. I mean,
I was gonna say,
obviously I'm not going to, but I just
we just
don't
had some
need
thunder
it.
right when he said that. So how about that?
That I did not know that you had that feeling about musicals, and I get it. I don't feel the same way, but I understand that mentality for sure.
Well, having said that, it was a very good episode, and I think some of the best character development that they did the entire season happened in that episode. You really got some insights into a number of the characters, and I thought it was very well done. So
excellent.
There you go.
Excellent. Mike, what about you? Because I know you like a good musical.
Oh, I love a good musical. I really, really do.
Was this a good musical?
It was fun. It wasn't memorable. It won't go down in the annals of history going, this was my favorite episode of Star Trek. No, not at all. But it was fun. And it was nice to see them, take a chance and also swing for the fences. And I think they hit it. I think they did a great, great job in getting to it. Do I think it was, amazing? The music was fun. And, I won't deny that I've listened to on streaming a couple of the songs, but, I don't, but then you also learn which members of the cast can sing and who can't sing also at the same time. But they took a chance. And that, for me, says a lot about a series and a cast that feels strong about a show. And, producers and everything. They took a chance. And you know what? So it was the second to last episode. And, I think it was perfect because they knew that they were going to end the season on a cliffhanger anyway. So they didn't want to finish up a story for fully going into it. And they built really well throughout the whole season with the Gorn. And, they didn't make it forefront until the final episode. And I thought that was the perfect way to do it. And, I enjoyed it. And, the music, sure, it's great. I'm looking forward to seeing when Dragon Con next year is going to do a midnight showing of it where people are going to be acting it out, kind of like Rocky Horror or Buffy or Doctor.
Well, okay, that's the thing, though. You talked about the memorability of it. I think that the Buffy musical has that. You recall the songs, they stick in your head. And I don't think any of these really do. They were very good songs and the performances were really good, but I just don't think that you might not ever see Star Trek the musical done at Dragon Con like they do Buffy, because I just don't think it has that same impact. I might be wrong.
Maybe not, but
Yeah.
I honestly, from what I see online, I think it may have more of an impact. And I hate to say this, but because it sounds a certain way, I think it'll have an impact for younger people who don't know musicals the way we know certain musicals.
True.
I see people on the line who've never seen The Music Man, for example, or honestly, even The Sound of Music or Singing in the Rain. And so for them, this is probably a lot more revolutionary and incredible than for some of us who know, the classicals. So I think honestly, it might impress some people more than it might impress us on this show.
Well, yeah, that is a very good point.
Very much so, exactly. And you had to say that to a younger audience. This is groundbreaking for them. This is cool to see it and everything like that. Because literally to them, the last big musical in the movies was La La Land or something like that.
Wow. Wow, that's a good point, Mike. And I
You
watch
know,
at least one musical a week.
No, I love musicals. Trust me, I am a
And
musical person. On my MP3, I have tons of different musicals on podcasts that I do. On Tales from Hollywoodland, plug. We are, our next episode is we're talking about Broadway musicals made into movies. What worked, what didn't work. So, there's so much out there with that we could touch. But to younger people, they don't get that. So this is really special to them.
yeah.
And if you think about it, the Buffy musical, that's 20 years old already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for making the hair grayer. Or it's just falling out at this point. I think it gives up. I think it's given up. I agree with a lot of you. In so much as I think they pulled it off to not embarrass themselves. I think it also helps when you've got a cast of folks that can sing, some more than others. It's always difficult to tell who can and who can't because they can always dub and futz around with the audio and all that kind of stuff. So you never really know. But I think for the most part, they used it as a character piece. Of course, they moved some character story arcs along a little bit. And if you're not familiar with musicals and to sort of follow along in that, you might be a little bit lost. And I think there was some jumps that were made character wise that if you weren't paying attention, all of a sudden you were kind of like, well, wait, what happened? So there's a couple things there that I thought. Plus the thing about this episode and 2 episodes right before it, this old scientist with the crossover with Lower Decks. All right, I'm gonna dial back here, and it's gonna be like, where is he going with this? So forgive me for a minute, but there was a show that I started watching that I liked at the beginning, which was called Monk, and it was about a guy who was a hypochondriac and he solved mysteries. He was really smart. He solved mysteries, but he had no social skills, and he was a hypochondriac. And the first season or 2, it was pretty good because the mysteries that he would solve would be pretty interesting, and they would put him in these weird situations. But the character of the show took over so much that the writers, instead of saying, let's make good mysteries, they just kind of went to the table and they said, let's try to think of the worst things that we could, like, let's put him in the sewer. Let's put him in here. Let's put him in it. Like, so they kept like putting him in situations that were uncomfortable for him. And the writing of the series of the mysteries was just crap. Because that's not what everybody tuned in for. Everybody was like, oh, let's laugh and see what, Monk's doing this week. Ha, he's in the sewer and that kind of thing. I feel like this season that Strange New Worlds kind of did that, because with the crossover and the musical themselves, the explanation as to why they happened was weak. It was not really that strong. It was just an excuse to do these gimmicks. And I kind of feel like that kind of undercut them a lot. Like, I don't want to see the show just become like, let's see if we can put Spock in a sewer. Like, I don't want to see like that kind of thing. Like, I think Charades was kind of a similar one with me too that did that. It's just like they didn't have great science fiction premises to use these gimmicks, if you will, to their full. Like I think that weakened them a bit. So, but that said, I mean, it's not easy to come up with one for, a musical is just a musical, right? So, and if you're not down with that, then it's just one of those things that you buy or you don't buy.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a huge gimmick.
It is.
And you have to come up with some ridiculous reason for it to happen. And it's so contrived that I just think it stretches credulity no matter what series it is that does it. Now with Buffy, at least it's like, like a spell, it's demonic magic and it's cast over the whole town and whatever. But I mean, the more you do these kind of things, the more you have to think, how in the hell are we going to get a musical? How are we going to get all these people to sing? And, it was interesting that they even acknowledged the fact that they heard the music. It's just too gimmicky for me, and that's why I don't like them.
No, I get that.
Mike, he says something I think is interesting. I want to dovetail on that real quickly, and which is really very interesting about any show that wants to say something meaningful, especially a science fiction show, is when you feel that they try to force the topic, where instead of feeling kind of organic. I liked the musical episode because I guess given some of my feelings about New Track, which is all positive, it didn't stun me. And as you said, they didn't embarrass themselves. One of the biggest problems I sometimes hate with musicals, like whether it's, I don't know, Good Times going way back or One Day at a Time or something, is when you are supposed to suspend your disbelief to believe these people are quote unquote real. When someone like the actress who plays Cecilia Gooding, when they play a character and that person sings and they sing noticeably better than everybody else around them, it kind of breaks the illusion that they're real people. It's like when I've seen so many sitcoms where Patti LaBelle shows up and she's supposed to be playing just somebody's normal mother. And then she starts singing and you're immediately taken out of it because she's singing way better than any normal person.
Okay, first of all, that's a very unfair comparison because no person on earth sings
is good
like Miss Patti LaBelle.
Well, this is true.
The absolute greatest.
She is
even
awesome.
Having said that, there are average people who have amazing voices. So
yeah, but what happens is sometimes they show so much polish and poise that you feel it. But I will say in this case, I didn't feel it here.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you think about like this is crazy stuff. Think about like the very first time LL Cool J did a movie role and he was a little awkward. And then he started singing and then he felt more natural and you can kind of feel the seams. I didn't feel that here. So I was okay with it and I didn't hate it. I absolutely laughed and groaned at the excuse where they found the reality where music is the method of communication. Because as you're saying, like they were forcing it because when they said, why don't you send music in there to communicate? That literally makes no sense. Music, tones and stuff are no more different than any language or mathematical symbols they would have been singing. But I just laughed and went with it. My actually only thing I didn't care for was the in-depth examination of character arcs I don't care for. I personally dislike Spock and Chapel. I see Alan shaking his head. And I don't like at all that Leon fell in love with Kirk in like 2 minutes. So the subject matter bothered me more than the fact that it was a musical. They've never had a musical before, but for people who say they shouldn't even try it, look at the episode I, Mud. Look at the episode The Way to Eden, and look at the entire last season of Deep Space Nine, which had Vic on the show. They weren't musicals, but they had music. And there were people who said that Deep Space Nine made the worst mistake ever by bringing on music.
Nobody says that.
Oh, a lot of people did.
Okay, but he's a lounge singer. You can't have. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a lounge singer in your holodeck. So,
I listened to Irish Stephen Burr just last week, and he said when they brought him on, he was told by people, "This is the stupidest thing you could ever do. It's going to destroy Deep Space Nine." But it's not a musical, but it was music.
Well, sure, but you could say the same thing about Riker and his jazz bands. And Data and his violin and his string orchestras. I mean, you're gonna have music. That's a whole different thing from your characters suddenly breaking out in song and spilling out their character development, in 4.5 minutes, it's just silly. Sorry.
Okay, tell us
No,
how you
that's
really
okay.
feel, Alan.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We love it. We love it.
Show, folks. That's right.
We love it. Okay, I'm gonna stick a pin in a couple of things you mentioned, Keith, because I definitely want to get to some of those things. But before we get into character arcs, because that was a big thing this season, I think more than individual episodes, character arcs were like the big thing. But before we start talking about that, I want to just talk about, highlights again. Mike, let's start with you on this one. What was your favorite episode of the season?
Ooh, good question, actually.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
No, I loved the second episode. I'm going to go back to episode number 2, with, the trial of number 1. I loved that story. It became literally a procedural. It became like you were watching Law and Order. It was really, really well done, especially for Star Trek. It called in everyone's motives, what's behind, them covering up. They knew that number 1 was genetically modified. And, when did they find out? And it was just, and what it meant to, and then they called in everything about Khan and, the eugenics war. And it was just really, really well done. It kept me riveted to the edge of my seat. It was from start to finish. That was just a fantastic Star Trek episode. And it didn't need to have spaceship battles. It didn't need to have all this in there. It showed character, and it showed how much these characters cared for each other, and also, what it meant, about, racism or, basing, this person shouldn't be in here because of their religion or their color, their skin, or their sexual orientation. It tied into so many different things with that. And it was awesome how they pulled it off and everything. It was smart, and it was a great, great episode. And there was times in there I thought they were going to find her guilty. I thought that explained why you never saw her in, the original series or anything. She was, banished, or she was stripped of her rank and everything, and she wasn't part of Starfleet, something like that. I thought that was, I thought it was great. And there were a number of episodes I really liked this season. I just thought, there was just so many different things I did like, and hopefully we can get into those also, because I don't think there was an episode I disliked this season.
Wow.
So,
well, I'm just going to piggyback on that because that's my choice as well. Ad Astra per Aspera is my favorite episode of the season as well. Star Trek does for a show that's science fiction oriented, you wouldn't think it, but Star Trek does courtroom dramas really well, really well. Like almost every season series has a courtroom episode that is standout great, and this one is right up there with the best of them. I wasn't like you, Mike. I didn't think that I never thought she was going to be found guilty, or that she wasn't going to come back, because I'm like, they're not going to get rid of Rebecca Romaine. They're just not. Although they do nothing else with her this season, so they might as well have. There's a shot. But I thought it was a really, really good character arc for her. Had the rest of the crew, including the captain, actually did something in this one too, which was nice. Yeah, I mean, it kind of, on the one hand, it's kind of like one of those things like, well, it's not a really great way to depict Starfleet and the Federation, but it's like, A, this is the early days, and B, we've seen before, Starfleet's not beyond reproach. Like there are things that happen, in order for us to get to where it is by the original series, certainly by Next Generation, et cetera, certain things have to advance as far as the Federation and Starfleet goes. And this is one of those things, which I thought was really, really well done. So yeah, I agree with you, Mike. That I thought that was my favorite episode of the season as well. Keith, what about you? What was your favorite episode of the season?
I can't differentiate between two. I have an absolute tie, and they both cover both poles of Star Trek. As you said, Ad Astra per Aspera was absolutely great drama, and then on the other pole, Under Cloak of War, was absolutely great action and drama. And those two tie. It's kind of one of those. If I want to watch one for just good drama and incredibly good dialogue, it's the courtroom episode. And if I want to watch one that has some action as well as good drama, it's the war episode. And I love both of them. I think, interestingly, one reason I like both of them is, as you were saying, Mike, these are newer characters that we don't know much about. It's not delving into James Kirk again. It's not delving into, the scion of or the descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. It's number one who we don't know much about. And it's Dr. Mabinga, and to a certain extent, a new type of Nurse Chapel in the war episode, Under Cloak of War. Both of those episodes surprised me because I didn't see them coming. Both of them elicited incredibly good acting. And the courtroom drama Ad Astra per Aspera, one of the things that stunned me is Star Trek used to be really, really known for great guest stars. And the actress who played the lawyer was phenomenal. One of the best guest stars I've seen in years. She came in there and she just worked in that episode. So I think those two are tied. I kept trying to do one over the other, but they're tied for me.
Not just great guest stars playing attorneys in other Star Trek episodes.
That's true.
If you look at most of the great, courtroom episodes, like the opposing counsel is usually somebody of note. So that's really funny. What about you, Alan? What was your favorite episode?
Well, the courtroom one, as everybody has said, because it's Star Trek exploring an issue, and it attacks it from all sides and represents every viewpoint. And yes, it's very talky and not action, but if you're doing it in a way that is intelligent and thoughtful and explores concepts, then I think that is an absolute winner. And as Keith says, Yetida Badaki was absolutely incredible in that episode, and she
so much
walked on the screen and you literally couldn't take your eyes off of her. She just owned every second that she was on screen. Other than that, I really loved Among the Lotus Eaters, which was Kirk. I'm sorry, good Lord. It was Pike going back to Rigel 7, and I thought that was a really, really well done episode. I loved the location work. I loved the way that the episode played out. I loved the attack on memory, and again, you're exploring a concept, and this is, not only the crew who are trying to get their memories back, but the people on the planet who are like, I don't really care. I don't want my memories back. There are things that maybe I don't want to remember, and I'm okay with that. And I thought it was a fascinating episode. Other than that
was pretty cool. That was probably the most action-heavy Pike episode we got, I think.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And another one, as Keith said, Under the Cloak of War. And the reason for that is because I didn't really care anything about Dr. Mbenga the first season. Not that I disliked him. I just didn't find his plot line in that season was basically him caring for his sick daughter, and I didn't think that was resolved very well and very strongly. So I didn't think that it really gave him a lot of, gravitas. It didn't give him a lot to work with. However, in this season, when we find that he is a trained fighter who contributed to the Klingon War on the front lines, and he and Chapel were basically war medics, that completely changed my view of Mbenga from, what I thought wasn't a strong foundation in the first episode. They completely reinvented him this season to what I find to be an incredibly compelling character. And he's like risen up to like one of my favorites. So well done, Strange New Worlds, for kind of revamping a character and giving them a lot more weight.
Yeah, I can't disagree there. As well, I can disagree to a point because I liked him the first season.
Yeah, he was okay.
But yes, he
fine.
was kind of bogged down with the daughter storyline, and that was pretty much defined him.
Yeah.
And in this one, we do get to find out more about him and Chapel, and I really do like Under the Cloak of War as an episode overall. I really don't like the ending. To me, the ending kind of, how I was saying with Ad Astra, like it's perfectly like Star Trek because it reinforces the idea of hope, whereas Under the Cloak of War does not. It does the exact opposite. And I found myself not liking M'Benga nor Chapel at the end of that episode. In fact, this season, I went into first season. I think we all talked about it, but I went in the first season not liking the whole Spock thing story. Like there was just too much Spock and Spock sex stuff, right? And I didn't care for that whatsoever. Like every time, and it was a lot of it. And this season they dialed back on that. There was a few episodes that they, of course, dealt with it, but obviously a big story arc this season is Spock and Chapel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found, and I liked Chapel okay the first season. I thought she was underserved because I thought she was being defined by her relationship with Spock. And I didn't really think that was, I thought she was better than that. So I was kind of hoping for more this season. And for a while there, it seemed like it was still being defined by her relationship with Spock. Under the Cloak of War kind of gave her some more gravitas. And yet, I found I didn't like the decisions that she made at the end of that episode. And then she goes right around, I think shortly after that, and dumps Spock. And I just was like, I just found myself by the end of the season, not liking Chapel at all. And so as a character, I just didn't care for some of the decisions that she's made. And if she never comes back, I'm okay with that.
Oh, no. Oh no, we have to have
Alan, we want to hear from you. Go.
Well, I like the fact that they are moving closer to. I mean, I think that she's going to be gone for a little bit, but I think it'll happen between seasons. Like maybe she'll come back in like a second episode of a season or something, because they're moving her toward that work that she does with Roger Corbett. Because we've taken steps to her getting an internship with Vulcan, and that didn't go through. And then the thing with Corbett presents itself, and we know that from the original series, we know that that's where she's headed. So I think that we're going to get to a point where she might be absent, at least for a little bit. But I think that making poor decisions is human. I mean, that's people do that. And especially when you're talking about Under the Cloak of War, this is a situation. I mean, you don't know. I mean, and I certainly don't know life on the front line and how that shapes you and how that makes you maybe make choices that somebody else wouldn't make. But what's funny is that on our show, we were just talking last week. One of the episodes that we talked about in our crossovers episode was Blood Oath from season 1 of DS9. And at the end of that episode, most of the main characters did not approve or like the decisions that Jadzia made. And that's just being human. So I don't dislike her because of those. I think it's just another aspect of her character.
Well, exactly. And they hinted at it in the very first episode when, M'Benga and Chapel were on that other spaceship and they had to take out the rebels. Yeah. And, it's a perfect add-on to that storyline because it shows, where did he, juice up the first time, the whole thing with that, because they took out almost that whole spaceship of people and everything.
He had that secret stash of Hulk serum.
Exactly. For both of them.
And you're like, well, where did that come from?
I know.
Half the season later, you find out. And I loved that. I loved planting that seed. at the beginning of the season and then having that payoff toward the end of the season.
Well, and it's interesting though, because like with this season, it almost felt like they split off the timeline in this season. The whole thing, when Singh and Kirk went into the past, and they pushed everything up 50 years. They pushed the interference from the Romulans in the past. That almost felt like it was like, we can't count on, things we know now from the original series might not come to pass and such because of the split right there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't worry about that so much, but that's a reference to my least favorite episode of the season. So, and look, I'll only just respond, Alan, to like, if she's human, that's fine. But just because she makes bad decisions doesn't mean I have to like them. And I don't have to like her. So
I'm not saying you have to like her.
So if she doesn't want to come back, and I know she comes back eventually on the original series, so that's fine. Like I know that's a Chapel that I like. So, but this one I just don't. Anyway,
one quick thing.
Yes.
One real quick thing. I can see what both you guys are saying because I know what you're saying. Absolutely, what Mbinga did, what Chapel did, Gene Roddenberry would not have approved. Absolutely. He also would not have approved what Benjamin Sisko did in Deep Space Nine under Beneath the Pale Moonlight.
Oh, dude, there's a lot of things that he would not have approved of with Sisko.
Exactly. He wouldn't have approved Jonathan Archer's piracy in Enterprise. But at the same time, I'm kind of okay with that because they're showing that these people are human and they got to work through getting to being the better people they become later on. And as one real quick note, I was reading an interview with the showrunners yesterday, and they said that Mbinga's actions will absolutely be coming back in the future.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people said, you can't just let him get away with that. And Pike's kind of like, hey, what happened? I don't want to talk about it. Okay. They're like, no, that's going to come back on him. So I don't know if he's going to quote unquote get away with it, whatever that was.
Exactly. And this is a hybrid show. It's basically episodic, but in the old days, episodic meant that you didn't have storylines that carried over from one episode to another.
Yeah.
So our episode plots are standalone, but our character arcs are not.
Right.
And so we're seeing all of that stuff play out across lots of episodes, and definitely we will see ramifications for that. But I also really like episodes that end sort of ambiguously,
That's just like life sometimes.
Right. So I didn't mind that so much. I do want to just super quick. I just want to mention my other favorite episode of the season because we haven't really talked about it yet. And that is the Lower Decks crossover because
those
I
old
love Lower Decks.
That was so awesome.
Oh my God. And that was the one that I was waiting for more than anything else this season. I was super excited about it. And I loved it. So that's all. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I thought that was fun. I've never watched Lower Decks, so it was completely like they new to me, like the characters and everything. But I didn't. Again, it was an excuse to do it. They didn't really, the portal or whatever just seemed like it just was there, an excuse to do a crossover. But you know what? It was fine. It was. I don't have a problem with that one as much.
It was interesting because I felt like on the episode, I felt like they mellowed the two Mariner, and and Balmer. I thought they mellowed them out compared to the cartoon. And
definitely.
So
they're less animated,
and everything. And I loved, Balmer's, reaction with everybody. It was wonderful to see. And it's like, oh my God, this is so antique, and it's it's like, excuse us, and it was just so much fun. And
that was good.
What, Mr. Spock is showing emotion? Oh my God, it's like,
and it's directed by Jonathan Frakes, who we all know has a great sense of humor, and I think it was a perfect matchup to have him direct that episode. And I want to give the producers a lot of credit too, the production staff, is because This Old Scientist and Subspace Rhapsody both have, they go full in. The intros to the show, the credits and everything are all different, and they match the tone of the episode and everything like that. And I thought that's kind of nice when they go out of their way to do that. So So I can't say they were half-assing it. That's for sure.
True.
They're like, we're all in. So
Right on.
All right. So, Keith, anything about the Spock? Because yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about another story or character arc, that's fine. Or any thoughts on the Spock Chapel arc this season?
I don't like the arc, period. And it's not because I don't think Spock can explore a little bit of his emotions. I do think they're going a little far afield with Spock having emotions. And look, I know the original series like the back of my hand. I know Spock had that big grin when the leaves were singing in that original episode. I know in Mud's Women, when he introduced the women to Kirk, and Kirk didn't know that there was these gorgeous women on ship, Spock had this huge smile on his face. I get it. But one of the things that the new Trek people do that kind of sort of irritates me is they take these little grains of things from the original series. And I've said this before on our show, they drive a truck through the little bitty holes that the plot from the original series kind of sort of left. So I would have been okay if Spock had emotions for Chapel, if he had feelings for her. I think the whole she grabbed him and they end up having sex and stuff like that right after he broke up with T'Pring, I just thought it was a bridge too far. I personally feel that the new Trek people lack subtlety in their writing, too much for my taste. So I think if they had toned down Spock's feelings for Chapel, like the silly thing where he said, only I can basically take a jetpack over to the ship and plant rockets on the ship. And there was nothing he did that required a Vulcan. So I just didn't care.
You don't know how heavy those things were.
I know, right? In space.
In space, not very.
Yeah. So I think that had they toned down the feelings that he had for Chapel, I would have liked it better. I think if they had just done the looks and the feelings and the awkward silences, I would have liked it better. I think they went just a little far with Spock's emotions, and that's an absolutely personal and subjective feeling. I have always felt less is more. And I've always felt that the new Trek people believe more is more. And that's just not my personal aesthetic.
I think for the most part, you're right. I do think though that they might be using Chapel's actions here for the next season to have Spock double down and go completely the Spock that we know. Just
I 100% agree with that.
So so we'll see. We'll see if that happens, but I get the feeling that that's where they're going with it. But we'll see. I mean, Peck is a decent actor, and he's done. I'm not a huge fan of him as Spock, but he's done okay. I don't think. Well, we'll just have to see. I'm not gonna project on something that I haven't seen yet. So when we've got so much to talk about more that we have seen. Okay, this has been mentioned a couple times, so I do have to mention this as well because we talked about Singh and Leanne's that whole lineage there, which I said in the first season I didn't agree with her and didn't agree with making her part of that clan, and they tripled down on it with Tomorrow by going, hey. Guys, it would be cool. Let's have the descendant of Singh have sex with Kirk. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, isn't that fun? Let's have like Kirk's biggest enemy, like his descendant, like have a love story with her. Like the only way it could have been cheesier.
There's so much fanfic.
The only way it could have been cheesier is if in Subspace Rhapsody, when Leanne is looking at Kirk, if she had sang the lines like "He tasks me and I shall have him," like that would be the only thing that would have been cheesier than what they did. Like,
I love it.
I
love it.
So, but I do agree. Like, I think that Uhura got a lot of time this season, a lot of time, and she's great. But I feel like at the expense of other characters. Like I do feel like outside of I do feel like the captain didn't get much to do. And I like Anson Mount a lot. He's the highest paid guy on the cast. Can we get him some stuff to do, please?
Well, he was on paternity leave.
Just for the first episode.
No, for the first couple of episodes.
Well, he's in the
Episode
second
4
episode.
is where he really kind of
Okay, so we're talking about 8 episodes. He still has nothing to do, like really, or 7 really.
Okay.
So I really feel like, he should, like, I wish that he was more of an active captain, like we're used to seeing. Maybe not completely. And number 1, Rebecca Romaine, I feel like she was underused, et cetera, et cetera. Any other thoughts on character arcs, Alan, from you? Like either ones that you love seeing or ones that you wish you'd seen more of this season?
Well, not necessarily an arc, but we have not mentioned the name Carol Kane yet.
I was about to. That was on my list. She was amazing.
I love her so much. And I hope that I was afraid that her coming in was like stunt casting and it was a stopgap measure until they work Scotty into the cast, and now he's there. So now I'm afraid, and I always was all along, that she was going to be like a 1-season character, and I hope that's not the case. I would like her to continue on as the chief engineer next season with him as her lieutenant, basically, and to see the two of them work together and to, and eventually she's going to go back to the academy to teach, and that's fine. But let's maybe make her a 2-season character.
Oh, very much so. I agree with that completely. I thought she was such a rich character and she has such a history. And I loved how they were able to go in the past. They were able to find her and, such. But her character is so all-knowing, almost like a Yoda type character type thing. But I loved how, she was teaching everyone on board almost at the academy. When you were in my class, if you pulled this kind of, I would have given you an A, instead of a D, So I just loved this stuff like that. And I agree with Alan completely. I could definitely see her staying on another season, almost mentoring Mr. Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everything.
And the other,
I'd like to see that as well. And I really liked the introduction, by the way. I know I've said that I don't really care for like the emphasis on original series characters, but I did feel like the introduction and the portrayal of Montgomery Scott by Martin Quinn was on point. Like I thought he was
fantastic.
Yes. I'm like, I want to see more of him.
It was really well written and he played it beautifully. So I'm excited to see more of him.
Actually, Mr. Scott, with the end of last season when they, just did the voice in a really bad Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And everything. But no, I agree. I thought the actor they brought in this season, the way they brought him in, even him, being creative, being, how to block the, the Gorn and everything. I loved all that. That was Scotty right on and everything. How, being it younger and everything. But I thought, I want to see more of this character. I want to see how he's going to grow into the Scotty we know now.
I think Quinn is the only actor that's played Scotty that's actually Scottish. So that's really amazing, actually. So
that's a step forward for representation.
Exactly, absolutely.
and for your question about what I would like to see, I need more Ortegas. And I'm ready for an Ortegas focused episode, and I want to know more about her background, and I want to see some development. There you go.
Alan, she flies the ship. I mean, what else do you need?
She does fly the ship. Exactly. But maybe she flies the ship and she likes yogurt. I would just like to know a little bit more.
I totally agree. I mean, we as Doctor Who fans know that I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the other actress, but she's really because I was thinking of Christina Chong was in that episode of Doctor Who. But Melissa's really good, and yes, I'm like, every time they're showing someone like Kirk, I'm like, why can't we find out more about Ortegas, please? So yes, I agree. Keith, what about you? What's something that you want to see from the next season?
Next season, what I would like to see is Kirk disappear completely.
Yes.
I completely agree with you.
Yes.
And I'm going to do this thing that's going to make people groan. And I'm not a slave to canon history, even though it sounds like it. But in the original series, Kirk said, I met Pike once when he was promoted to fleet captain. Then they get around it by that tricky thing where he was a temporary fleet captain. That's not what the original series meant. Pike was permanently promoted to a real fleet captain, gave up the Enterprise, and then Kirk took over. I honestly felt this entire show should never have shown Kirk until like the last episode or the last half of the last season, and just have him come in slowly. So I don't want to see any more Kirk. I think it's stunt casting, and I think you need to trust your audience that you can build, as you said, new characters and tell me new stories. Let me learn to love other characters other than Kirk. So I want to see less Kirk. And on the absolute flip side, I want to see not only more Pike, but stronger Pike. There is a huge discussion online about how Pike came off looking like a wimp at the very end of the season finale. I contend that is fulfillment of what they already did to him. I really dislike the episode that introduced Kirk, where they claim that had Pike encountered the Romulans, we would have gone to war. To me, it made Pike look weak. It just made Pike look weak, and I never liked the way they treated him. And I love Under Cloak of War, but I did not like the way Pike let his officers act around the Klingon general. I mean, they just got up and walked out of his room.
Yeah,
Kirk, Sisko,
I agree with
Janeway,
that.
Picard, they would have slapped them down, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to see no Kirk, and I want to see Pike be a little stronger and more of the man I know he is. He leads with his heart, but when you're a starship captain, you got to be a little stronger. I want a little bit more of that from Pike.
But I think the reason people say that is because we saw that in Discovery season 2, and we're not seeing as much of that. We're not seeing as much of that on his own show.
That's a very good point, and I completely forgot about that. He was a much stronger character.
Yes. He owned season 2 of Disco.
Oh, yeah, that's very good. I want to
he
see
is
that
literally
guy.
what made me, fall in love with Discovery.
Yeah.
Because it became a better show with him on.
Well, it became a Star Trek show.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You were so right.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Mike and Alan. I forgot about that. Right. This season 2 portrayal was amazing.
Yeah.
Mike, is there anything you want to see from season 3?
Season 3, I want him to
because it's going to be a while.
Oh, I
yes,
know.
It is.
Well, thank you, straight. So it's going to be we probably won't see till the earliest early 2025.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
For a new season and everything. But they can't do anything with the strike going on.
Yeah, that's true. 2 years.
I want to see them get away from the Gorn. I want, like Mike has said, I want to see them exploring new frontiers, going, I don't want to see the Klingons. I don't want to see the Romulans. I want them just to explore, and maybe every once in a while, bring back someone they've met with or something, that's fine, or something. But no, I want them to discover. I would love to see Rainn Wilson back as Harry Mudd. I think that would be amazing. And how
I want to see Laurel back.
Yeah. There's some characters back, from from Discovery that I would love to see, and I would love to see something, maybe Section 31, something with that even, possibly. Yeah. So there's tons of stories to be told, and they don't need to deal with the Gorn. They don't need the war with the Gorn and blah, blah, blah. Because in that episode of the original series, that was supposed to be the first time they ran into the Gorn. And
absolutely. So, yeah.
I mean, that's already been busted, but like I said, I'm not, I'm not crying over spilled milk there.
You can't do that. I've heard people say, what about something like a Trelane or a Q or something?
Yeah. No,
I think
I don't want to see. I don't want to Star Trek repeat itself. I want to watch this show because I want to see new things. It's called Strange New Worlds. Let's experience new things. I mean, you've shown you can do new gimmicks. So I want to see last season they had 2 or 3 really strong episodes that really made you think and challenged things, challenged ways of thinking that the original series at its best and Star Trek at its best would do, so I want to see that.
You've seen the Enterprise do more than it's ever done before on screen and everything, go into the atmosphere or stuff like that, and just some of the flight stuff has been amazingly beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The only other thing I'll end our segment here by the only other thing that I want to see is I want to see Sam Kirk not just portrayed as a joke. Like, I really want to see
Agreed.
him be developed as a character, as a breathing character that actually like we'll care about when he sometime dies. Because you know, I mean, he's Kirk's brother, but he's more than that. I want to see. I'd rather see Sam Kirk than James Kirk on this show. Step up. Let's put it that way. So.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, interesting point when you talk about Kirk. Sam Kirk is the older brother.
Yep.
And also, lest we forget, the Kirk brothers survived the massacre of Kodos the Executioner.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I'm not seeing the
Yeah.
kind of, and he's a brilliant, supposedly a brilliant research scientist, or he will become one. See, I'm kind of not seeing that, and they can just kind of keep, you know, making.
They use him as a joke more than anything else.
Yeah,
I think it's the porn stash, but you know, I think they might have to do something a little bit with that. But
I just want to see more development for the porn stash.
I mean,
Come on, let's have it.
You know, he kind of looks like more like oh shoot, what's that? Oh man, what's the show, the soccer guy?
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Yes, yeah. I don't want to see Ted Lasso in space. I want to
Does
see
Sam
like...
Kirk believe in Believe?
Mhm. Just remember, be a goldfish.
Right on. Right on. The
That's
happiest thing in the planet. Super fast. I just want to say the thing that I'm looking forward to most in season 3 is the same thing that I was looking forward to most in season 2, and I didn't get it. And that is a return of Angel and Cybok. I am super excited to know what it is that they've got in mind for Cybok being reintroduced into the series.
Oh.
I'm so anxious for that. Plus, Jesse James Keitel was, you know, on the level of Yatita Badaki as far as guest stars who own the screen go.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That sounds intriguing to me. So I'll yes, please. I'll dial in.
Right on.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for
Thank
all the
you.
great work that you're doing on Earth Station Trek. And it's great to have you here to talk all about Strange New Worlds. And unfortunately, that's probably going to be it for Star Trek for a while for us. But we certainly look forward to season 3 and beyond. We're going to take a quick break. And after that, we're going to close out the show.
Okay, YouTube folks, you know, this is your special little segment here that we usually talk about different things that we just didn't have time to go with in the main topic and everything. And I think we barely scratched the surface with this episode and everything.
Yeah.
And the season was just wonderful. And, you know, in truth, I think one of the characters that grew the most during the season was Uhura. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, and it's almost feeling like this the whole Strange New Worlds is, you know, showing the growth all the way through of Uhura, how she became who she became. And, you know, are you okay like showing focusing this much on just one character? Because she was a focus of, you know, she was the one who figured out the singing. She was the one she did. And there was a couple other episodes. She was the one who, you know, was able to figure it out, that she was able to, come to her, you know, conquer her fears and stuff like that in some of the episodes and such.
Yeah. The things that were
I will
sentient
say,
dust.
during the music episode, it almost kind of teased that she and Spock are going to have a thing. And I'm like,
they
please,
teased
God,
about that in the
don't do
original series, though, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did all, but they did more than tease about it in the movies. But so I mean, there's precedent for sure, but I certainly don't want to see another character defined by their relationship by Spock. But I do feel like the actress is amazing. The character's always been fun. It should be said that, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence, but this season was dedicated to Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
So I do think there was an emphasis on building up Uhura right from the get-go from this crew. And, you know, was it at the expense of others? I probably, but I can't knock the performance that she gave, or, you know, I can't say I want to see less of her because I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, I also think when you look at Uhura, Chapel, Ortegas, and even La'an, who I love as an actress, I just don't like her name. They, I think, organically elevated women in this series, in this episode, Strange New Worlds. Obviously, as we've seen with new Star Trek series, increasingly women are in roles. Like Janeway was the first captain, the headliner series, and then you got Michael Burnham and Giorgio. And there's a lot of women in Strange New Worlds that are frankly leading the shows, especially this season. But it feels organic and they feel strong. And I agree with you, Mike. Therefore, you don't want everybody falling in love with, frankly, Kirk or Spock. You want them to have kind of different lives. And I think so far they've done very well by how they've written the women. Even when you don't like someone like Chapel, at least you're not ignoring her.
No, that's a good way to put it, actually.
I think I'm okay with an emphasis because I don't think that Uhura and Chapel were all that. I'm not going to say not well written, but they were very underwritten.
Absolutely.
In the original series. And I think this is an opportunity to give them some of the development that they did not get in the 3 seasons of their original show. So I'm okay with it. Bring it on.
No,
I still want to see an Ortegas episode.
Oh yeah, I think, and it's great. I loved the episode. She was all ready finally to go on her first away mission, and the captain said, "Oh, we need you here. Can't do it." Look at disappointment.
If I'm not mistaken, she's currently on the Gorn ship, right?
Yes, she is.
That's right.
And
we don't know her fate because we don't know anything about that character.
Exactly. No, if they want to make me mad and make me not want to watch the show at all, just go ahead and just kill her in the first episode of the 3rd season.
Oh man.
Well, don't forget Pike's girlfriend. They got to figure out they're going to get that embryo out of her.
Yeah, and they will. They will.
I was going to say, oh, she's going to die. Oh, she's not going to die. Oh, she's going to die. Come on. I mean. It's kind of tired.
Oh God, I love it. I'm not dead yet.
I'm almost dead, but not quite.
Shut up, Billy. You'll be stone dead in 5 minutes.
We're gonna figure out the secret of this alien species we're not supposed to beat for another decade.
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds. This is supposed to take place 10 years before what we saw on the original series.
Right.
So there's so much that that lore they can touch on. There's so much they can explore that hasn't
too
been
much touching. On. Stop it! Stop that touching! Don't touch it anymore.
But I want to
leave that original series stuff alone.
Love to see them maybe find races and such that we saw in the original series, but they were already part of the Federation. Meeting them for the first time. That's one of the things I loved about Enterprise was everything was new and everything.
Agreed.
They didn't do it sometimes kind of well, but they still did it. And meeting the Orions, meeting the Klingons, meeting all these different races and everything. So I thought
they did it well. I mean, I think one of the things that Enterprise did well was the Andorians, and I don't think we've seen Andorians yet on Strange New Worlds. So I would welcome that. No. Especially if we could have something about how they got into I don't think by this time they're in the Federation, so it would be kind of interesting to see. But then by the original series they're not either because they're are they in the Federation?
They're one of the founding races.
That's true. That's right. Okay, gotcha. So,
they founded it on the Archer, so it was Earth, Vulcan, Andoria, and
Tellurite.
Tellurites.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen Tellurites either.
Well, we saw one in the court episode.
Oh, gotcha.
Right.
But he just said a line or two, and that was it.
It does seem like, I guess it's but it does seem like this crew is a little bit more human than I'm used to seeing in Star Trek. But then again, so was the original series. So there's
every once in a while you see some aliens pop up. They showed more aliens on the crew on Discovery than they do on this.
Yeah,
you've noticed.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting, and you know what? I'm having fun with it. I hope you guys at home are also. But like we said, season 3 is going to be quite a while away. Have you guys read any of the comics of it yet? Any of the Strange New Worlds or anything?
I have not.
I just picked up the first couple issues of it, and it's great. It's a ton of fun.
Is Kirk in it?
No, Kirk is not in it. Thank goodness.
I
No,
just wanted to make sure.
I just, I think Kirk should go away. And I'm glad they nipped that in the butt, because they talked about, how he's in a relationship and everything.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And everything. So,
Carol
It
Marcus.
comes down on leaning on Star Trek 2. Just keep leaning on Star Trek 2.
Yes. And, and they say that he was expecting a kid or something?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And everything. I didn't think he knew about David.
He did.
No,
In Star Trek 2, he says, I did what you asked, I stayed away.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, he doesn't know. And she's like, no, I never told him.
Okay.
So yeah, she knows, but
Okay.
she never told him.
Gotcha.
I happen to know that movie backward and forwards.
His surprise was in seeing a grown.
Shocked.
His surprise was in seeing a grown-up dude and saying, "Is that David?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she never sent him a picture.
Right.
Exactly.
he didn't have access to the records.
Well, he did. He just never bothered to look.
Yeah. He's
Google his own.
Come on,
Starfleet Googling his own son.
Ow. So, but yeah, that's interesting stuff. And like you said, I don't want to see Kirk next season. I think we've touched on that. We don't need to come back to that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but I think we did not need Kirk in this.
I think we will.
Oh, of course we will.
Yeah, same here.
Unfortunately, I think we will. So,
right.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
So, of course. No, I think we got some interesting stuff to look forward to and some interesting storylines. And, hopefully sooner than later we'll see it. So, but it all depends on the strike too. So, so we'll see. It's interesting too with, Strange New Worlds. There were so many loose ends left by Discovery and, threads with stories and everything that they can touch on too. Because it's all that same era and it's not that far off. So
Section 31, which will be supposedly was going to be a movie, but now we don't know for a TV movie. Yeah, we don't know for sure now, given who knows again what happens.
Well, exactly. But Michelle Yeoh has gotten a little expensive now, to bring on. So it'll be very interesting to see. But there's, Star Trek, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with it. Folks, we definitely would love to hear from you guys. If you guys want to write and tell us your theories on any of this stuff, please let us know. All right, that's going to wrap this bonus section up, and let's close up the show. So that's it for tonight for Earth Station 1. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been fun to have some Trek talk. Alan, thank you so much, as always, to joining us, my friend.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about or promote?
Well, I have another podcast on, and it's called Modern Musicology. It is also on the ESO Network, and we have a couple of really great episodes one just came out. It is the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Great episode.
And
today.
Our next episode is also a 50th anniversary celebration of rap and hip hop.
Oh,
and it's crazy to me to think of things as disparate as Dark Side of the Moon and hip hop originating at essentially the same time. That's just amazing to me. And we had a great time exploring both of those topics, and everybody should check them out.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Keith, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Sorry I didn't have much to say.
Oh, yeah, right.
Wow.
You gotta one of these days we gotta really have you break out of your shell and be more like, tell us how you feel. Like,
you guys really got to do more to draw him out, I tell you.
Two things I'll say real quick is we've been talking about, we have Matt and Elaine Sletman, who are, I really call friends of the show for Earth Station Trek, who've been doing all kinds of Star Trek rewatches. And over on Earth Station Trek, Charles and Veronica and Alan and I just discussed the animated series. And so I would tell people, please, 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 if you think the animated series is a joke, if the animation is too horrible for you, and it is crazy. You will watch an episode and Kirk and Sulu will literally interchange bodies. There's an episode where Mr. Kyle has a mustache one scene and he does it the next. Don't let that stop you. The animated series is Star Trek. It really is really good Star Trek. So, Mike, you mentioned earlier with the strike coming, we're gonna have a lot of time to watch a lot of stuff.
There you
Do
go.
yourself a favor and watch the animated series. It is really good Star Trek.
Oh, we did an episode about it, but about 6 months ago, and it was so much fun to rewatch.
It is.
So please, folks, if you do get a chance, watch it. It is really worth it. You know, right now, Judy and I are rewatching Next Gen from the beginning, and because she doesn't remember any of it, so
wow,
it's a ton of fun.
Wow.
Seeing her reaction to it, and she was, because like we just made it through the first season, and she's just like, "Does it get better than this?" Oh, I said, "Oh, you barely scratched the surface." Then.
So you reintroduced her to the Ferengi with the laser whips and the fur.
Oh God, yes.
We just talked about them.
She was really upset when Tasha was killed. She said they killed her, you know.
Yeah.
She wasn't a fan of the character or anything, but she says, because she says, I don't remember seeing her in any of the movies. I said, just keep watching. Just keep watching.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was interesting for sure. So definitely we're going to have a lot of time on it. There's a few different older series that, you know, we're starting, and, you know, we're going to have a lot of time, folks. I don't think the strikes are going to end anytime soon from what I'm hearing. So folks, you know, buckle down. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
Yes. I mean, as we've talked about here, and as I've mentioned many times on this show, Star Trek means a lot to me. I don't have the memory anymore to be able to tell you what my first episode of Star Trek that I ever watched was, or, you know, it's things of that nature. But I can tell you, I think without a shadow of a doubt, that I don't think there's any TV series, maybe even pop culture, movie, album, whatever, that has affected me as much as Star Trek has. And I am so excited to be part of Jim Beard's new book of essays about growing up with Star Trek, the original series. It's called Galloping Around the Cosmos, Memories of TV's Wagon Train to the Stars from Today's Grown-Up Kids. And it is a long title, but it is full of essays about a bunch of us who grew up around the original series, whether we saw it as it aired or in syndication, no matter when we were first introduced to it, the groundbreaking series from 1966 to 69. There's so many great other talents that are part of this book. I cannot believe that my name is going to be alongside Greg Cox, Keith Candido, John Drew, the award-winning Bobby Nash, Van Allen Plexico, Alan Porter, more. I'm just so excited that Jim Beard, who's editing the book, has invited me to tag along as well. It's going to be fun. It's supposed to be out in the fall. I don't have an exact date yet, but he did release the cover art as well as some more promotional stuff on it, which you can see either if you go to Becky Books or you can go to my social media. You can see the cover and all that kind of stuff there. And of course, once it's released, I will let everybody know as well.
That is awesome, sir.
Nice.
Very, very cool. You well deserved, of course. All right. My shout out real quick. Want to talk about somebody who just passed away, who meant a lot to me growing up, all the way from being a little kid, all the way through college, and, you know, being unemployed after school, after college and everything. And in the mornings, what was I watching at 11 a.m. every day? Price is Right.
Price is Right.
That's right. And we just had the passing of Bob Barker at the age of 99. He couldn't pass a dollar, folks. You know, with the wheel, you cannot pass a dollar. So 100 was just that far away, but he made it. The man was a legend in game show hosts, and he was also a big proponent of animal rights, and also, you know, helping people, you know, find homes for, you know, pets at the, you know, who were at the pound, and, you know, trying to foster pets and everything. You know, he ended each show, you know, remember, folks, spay and neuter your pets, you know, and everything. And he, you know, even got into a fight with on screen with, Happy Gilmore. It was pretty awesome. So
He could hold his own.
oh, he
Yeah.
definitely he took him out. So it was pretty awesome. So, it's awesome to see he had a great sense of humor. He was having fun with doing the show and everything. I got to meet him once when I got to be in the audience of Price is Right when we were in California back in the early 90s. And, it was one of those things. He came out after the show to talk to the audience and everything. And he answered one of my questions and everything. And it was pretty cool, just a super, super nice guy. And, I've never heard a bad thing about him. And
Yeah.
you know what? Well, he'll be missed. He was, like I said, part of growing up. You could find him all over YouTube. You could probably even find him on Pluto TV and the Game Show Network and everything. So please, definitely, Bob Barker, thank you for, playing Plinko with all of us and, the Showcase Showdown. It was a good thing. All right, folks, that is going to wrap up the episode for tonight. Thanks for listening, as always. Always remember, we couldn't do this without you. Please, if you want to leave feedback, please write us feedback@ourstation1.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us. And, we love hearing from you guys. We hear from folks weekly. We hear from, just, people who, suggestions for the show, people talking about the new format, us coming out just once a week again and such. And, when they write us, we usually write back and, saying, thank you for this, or we take the criticism or the comments to heart because it's part of what we do on the show here. If you want to help, support the show, though, of course, go to our Tee-Public store. We have some really cool stuff, including Earth Station Trek stuff. So we have your logo up there. We have, some other stuff, we have a t-shirt. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, it's like, so it's pretty cool. It's, it's some great stuff up there. That's, there's always more stuff coming. I'm in the process of designing like 3 different new t-shirts for it. So, definitely check it out. You could find us up on Tee-Public. Just search for Earth Station 1, ESO Network, or go to the Earth Station 1 page and go to the top of it. And there's a link right there for Tee-Public. Also, if you want to help support the network, of course, go to the ESO Network Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you could help support the ESO Network and get, kind of ESO Network swag. You can get the shows early, different things. And we got some new stuff on the wings coming. So all you have to do is go to patreon.com/ESO Network. Remember, you can find Earth Station 1 wherever fine podcasts are found. And now Earth Station 1 is up on YouTube. But you know what? We're just not up on YouTube anymore. We're now on Pandora. We're also up on XM Radio. So you can also find us up there. So definitely, you could put us into one of your playlists. It's pretty darn awesome with that kind of stuff. And you know what? You could also find Earth Station Who and the Dragon Con report up there on those wonderful, fine ways to listen. So, you know what? We're trying to get out everywhere, so tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We're not too, bashful here on the show. We will tell you to beg and plead to, listen and leave feedback, folks. It's always a great way. All right. That's it for tonight. Please, hug your loved ones. Have a great Labor Day weekend here in the United States. Oh, Dragon Con. Earth Station 1 actually has a panel for a virtual panel. And also Mike Gordon is going to be on a real panel at Dragon Con. We are on Saturday, if I remember, at 11:30 a.m. Isn't that when you guys are doing the Super Friends?
I think so.
Yes. It's the American Classic Sci-Fi Track is doing the 50th anniversary of the Super Friends. So definitely check that out. And so that way, sadly enough, I'm not going to be able there to go, meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice. So, and so it'll be a ton of fun. And then also Earth Station 1 is doing a virtual panel Sunday at 11:30. And we're doing that through the Brit Tracks. And we are doing the music of James Bond. That's right, folks. We're talking all about the theme music from the movies and everything. What was the best, what was the worst, and everything in between. So, and how it tied into the movies and everything. And we didn't even have enough time to even scratch the surface with that. But it's definitely fun, and you could find that up on, I think we're going to be, is it through Dragon Con TV or is it through we're going to be up on YouTube through the Brit Tracks channel and such.
I think that's where it is. Yeah.
Yep. So definitely check that out. And I know Earth Station Who is also going to have a Doctor Who spinoff show also Saturday at 11:30 also up on YouTube. So you can watch it after you watch the Super Friends panel. So definitely check that out. On behalf of myself, Mike Favorite, Alan Seiler, of course, Keith Johnson, and the one and only Mr. Mike Gordon, thank you guys for listening and watching us off on YouTube. We will see you here next time. Peace, and we are done. Bye. Live long and prosper.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.